Italy 2024, where the battles of the past still smoulder.
Are you a fascist?
If you ask me like that, I probably would say yes, but I have to complete the term and say I'm a revolutionary.
A march in Milan for a far-right student killed almost 50 years ago by the far left.
We're seeing things in these recent years that are very similar to what happened at the beginning of the regime.
The years of violent clashes between fascists and anti-fascists have gone, but the words and the polarization live on.
Being anti-fascism in Italy means be a violent person who shut the door to all others.
Competing narratives in the country that created fascism.
Il calendario più venduto in Italia, questo tra l'altro.
You've got the Mussolini calendar. You said this is the most sold calendar in Italy.
And still allows its sympathizers.
In realtà questi conti l'Italia con il suo passato non li ha mai fatti davvero.
As it draws to a close, the finale, with a chilling throwback to Italy's dictatorship decades.
These kinds of demonstrations with the fascist salutes happen across the country year in, year out. The state allows them to take place, and society somehow seems to tolerate them. I want to find out why, and why some of the images associated with the dark chapters of Italy's past still infuse the present.
For the hardcore believers, a return to where it, or rather he, began. The small town of Predappio in northeast Italy, the birthplace of Benito Mussolini, the country's fascist dictator, assassinated in 1945 after a ruthless 20-year rule. Every year on the anniversary of his death, the faithful gather to honor him, not for them the established narrative of his reign of terror. Down the road, Mussolini merch. From the traditional to the tacky, an extraordinary world of dictatorship kitsch.
Can you imagine an equivalent place existing in Germany, selling Hitler and Nazi paraphernalia? It just wouldn't happen. This is extraordinary. It's Mussolini marketing, and it sells.
Then it begins. Part funeral procession, part military parade. A pilgrimage to his resting place. They're called to attention, and then silence for their victim. They file in towards his tomb. We're not welcome.
Ammiro e stimo la persona.
Ma non era un criminale?
Chi l'ha detto che era un criminale? Se le tre regole, Dio, patria, famiglia, rispettare le regole, portare il debito dello Stato al zero, l'INPS, la maternità, pagare vuol dire essere criminale, allora forse puoi dire che era un criminale, ma non lo era. Sono mamma, sono nonna, sono cristiana, non sono drogata, non ho mai infranto la legge, ho sempre pagato le tasse. Se tu dici che se io sono fascista ti dico sì. Se tutto questo vuol dire essere fascista, sì, lo sono. Io romanamente saluto il mio capo di Stato, unico e solo capo di Stato.
In Milan, Mussolini made an important statement on the question
It's a
of foreign
salute
policy.
deriving from ancient Rome, adopted by the fascists and passed on to the Nazis. Benito Mussolini, nicknamed Il Duce, or the leader, swept to power in 1922, beginning 2 decades of totalitarian rule, marked by a brutal repression of opponents, concentration camps and invasions abroad.
He came by armored train for the meeting with Senior Mussolini.
Anti-Semitic laws persecuted Jews, worsening after Italy's wartime alliance with Hitler's Germany.
Journey from Germany unless he wanted something.
After the war, a neo-fascist party was allowed to form, and figures from the Mussolini era filled state institutions. The party remained sidelined until Silvio Berlusconi brought it into his coalition, legitimizing the extreme.
Li abbiamo fatti entrare noi nel 94, li abbiamo legittimati noi, li abbiamo costituzionalizzati noi.
Today, the black shirt salutes fill various yearly tributes. They say it's historical commemoration. Critics call it glorification of past crimes.
Il fascismo non è morto nel 1945, è stato sconfitto militarmente, ma ha continuato a vivere nella pancia di molti italiani. Mi chiamo Paolo Berizzi, sono un giornalista, mi occupo di neofascismo e di neonazismo e da quasi 6 anni vivo sotto scorta per minacce neofasciste e neonaziste. È una vita blindata. E vuol dire che tu al ristorante, al cinema, a teatro sei sempre accompagnato dai tuoi agenti di scorta. 100 anni dopo l'inizio del fascismo, cioè la marcia su Roma, chi fa il mio lavoro, un cronista, sia costretto a vivere e lavorare sotto scorta. Io penso che questa sia una sconfitta per lo Stato. In realtà questi conti l'Italia, con il suo passato, non li ha mai fatti davvero. Nel pensiero comune si è depositata l'idea che in qualche modo il fascismo ha fatto anche cose buone, che Mussolini ha fatto delle cose accettabili, utili al paese.
Italy's post-war constitution has one article that bans reforming the fascist party. The subsequent so-called Scelba law forbids groups pursuing the same anti-democratic aims, glorifying fascism, using violence to do so, or promoting the suppression of freedom. But it's only been used twice to dissolve fringe movements, and it leaves it up to judges to decide whether acts like the salute are a crime. Many think the law could have been used after this, protests over COVID restrictions that attacked Italy's main trade union. It was seen as out of the fascist playbook, since the unions were targeted under Mussolini. Forza Nuova took part that day, a fringe hard-right party still not banned.
Hi. Wow. Well, this is...
Luca Castellini, its deputy leader, was jailed for the violence, but freed pending appeal.
flag up here of the Donetsk People's Republic.
Esatto, Donbass.
Donbass in Ukraine, the part of Ukraine taken by Russia, or claimed by Russia.
È la parte dell'Ucraina che è russa. Il calendario più venduto in Italia, questo tra l'altro.
You've got the Mussolini calendar. You said this is the most sold calendar in Italy.
No, non lo dico io, lo dicono i dati.
We are fascists. A call to arms. We are fascists. And then up here, this is of course, the flag of the old
Repubblica Sociale, sì.
fascist republic.
Io ve lo dico.
This was also Luca Castellini.
Chi ha permesso questa serata? Chi ha pagato tutto? Chi ha fatto da garante ha un nome? Adolf Hitler!
As head of Verona's Ultras, Italy's hardcore football fans, long a breeding ground of extremism. He's been banned from the stadium after saying a black player could never be truly Italian.
Do you think it's acceptable to joke about Adolf Hitler?
Ma non è questione di giocare, io potevo dire anche Stalin, potevo dire Pol Pot, potevo dire qualsiasi altro dittatore della storia. Era una battuta ed è stata considerata tale dal tribunale, difatti, che mi ha assolto. Quindi,
would you say the same thing again?
Vuol dire che si può fare, assolutamente, certo.
You would repeat the same thing?
No, ripetere, voglio dire che non è un reato.
What would you say to a Jewish person, an Italian Jewish person who lost their family to the Holocaust?
Ma non so come la può pensare, ma voglio dire, ce ne sono di popoli che hanno avuto le persone morte in guerra, o, cioè, voglio dire, le guerre ci sono sempre state e ci sono sempre stati morti.
No government has cracked down. But some feel Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is even less likely to do so.
Giorgia a 19 ans.
She started in politics in the neo-fascist youth, interviewed aged 19 by French TV.
Moi, je crois que Mussolini, c'était un bon politicien. C'est-à-dire que tout ce qu'il a fait pour l'Italie. Et on ne le trouve pas ça dans les politiciens qu'on a eu dans les derniers 50 ans.
The party she formed, Brothers of Italy, has its roots in post-war fascism, keeping the same tricolour flame logo. But she has moderated and moved it away from the far right to the mainstream.
Ho deciso di scendere in campo.
She's topping polls before the upcoming European elections, an example for Europe's nationalist politicians hoping she'll lead a new right-wing wave and hoping to emulate her success in their countries. And on the past, she had this message.
The Italian right has handed fascism over history for decades now, unambiguously condemning the suppression of democracy and the ignominious anti-Jewish laws.
Il mondo neofascista italiano, l'estrema destra, i gruppi dichiaratamente neofascisti, si sono sentiti sdoganati con l'avvento del governo Meloni, perché quei simboli, quelle battaglie, quegli slogan che per anni erano tenuti in qualche modo ai bordi del campo, fuori dal perimetro della politica istituzionale, di colpo vengono legittimati. Giorgia Meloni e come lei i suoi colonnelli non riescono a definirsi antifascisti. Questo è il dato su cui riflettere. Nel momento in cui tu non riesci a definirti antifascista in una repubblica nata dall'antifascismo, evidentemente vuol dire che hai qualche problema a farlo.
But Meloni's supporters say the issue is with the way in which anti-fascists have protested over the years, both in clashes with the other side and with police.
Being anti-fascist during the fascism was a very brave act, a brave of freedom, a brave for democracy. But after the falling of the fascism, being anti-fascist means violence, means a lot of young students killed. This is why she's very clear. I always condemned the fascism every day of my life. But please don't tell me to share what the anti-fascists did it after the falling of fascism.
If somebody looks from outside and they see Italy in 2024 with hundreds of people in the main second city of Italy putting the fascist salute, how do you think that looks?
You are fascist if you want to reintroduce the fascism in your country, not if you make the fascism salute, that is the Roman salute. We condemn the fascism, but more than this, is an obsession.
And so one side of Italy sees fascism and its threat as a ghost haunting the present, the other as a fantasy whipped up by the left.
Across Italy, the past, politically speaking, lives on. Historical battles still part of the present. We've come to Bologna, which has always been at the centre of the fight against fascism. Here are the names and faces of the partisans that died defending this city from the fascists in the 1940s. But then it went on to 1980 with Italy's worst terror attack. bombings at the train station here in Bologna by neo-fascists that killed 85 people. And so fascism and anti-fascism have always been at the heart of this city's, this country's political lexicon.
We're seeing things in these recent years that are very similar to what happened at the beginning of the regime and at the beginning of fascism a century ago. Attacks on freedom of press, censorship, freedom for the LGBTQI community, attacks on the liberty and freedom of women to determine what they can do on their own body.
So do you feel that the fight, the anti-fascism fight, is still relevant today?
Definitely. I definitely believe it's very relevant, and I also see, again, to strike a parallel, the fact that the far right, not only in Italy but all over the world, is sort of trying to find a scapegoat for people's difficulties in everyday lives by attacking the stranger, the person who comes from abroad, the migrant. It's something similar again to what was done a century ago. Germany in some ways sort of had to address the past because there was victors and those who had lost the war. Italy's role was a little more ambiguous, right? So first with Hitler and then surrendered, and there's much to be said about really grappling with that legacy.
Benito Mussolini! Presente!
History is weaponized in a country still not at peace with its past, sugarcoating the bitter parts of collective memory, nostalgia given free rein.
My name is Roberto Fiore and I'm the National Secretary of Forza Nuova. I define myself as someone who really, who has certainly got some ideas, some inspiration by a certain part of fascism.
Are you a fascist?
If you ask me like that, I probably would say yes, but I have to complete the term and say I'm a revolutionary.
But are you denying that the fascist regime was violent and criminal?
Yes, absolutely, I deny it.
Mussolini signed the racial laws. I mean, he deported, this was a regime that deported Jews to death camps, that outlawed the opposition, that put political opponents in internment camps. Are you honestly saying that you support those measures?
The internment camps are things that happened with the war. The Americans did it, the Germans did it, the Italians did it, and so on.
Talking about people who were gassed, who were shot, who were exterminated for their religion.
Fascism has never been accused of this. I'm talking about fascism as a regime. Mussolini and all his ministers had never been tried for this.
Do you believe that this government in power in Italy is occupying your political space?
No, I believe that they are freeing a lot of the political space that we're going to take. Why? One of the main points is immigration. We have always been against immigration. Meloni has always been against immigration, sometimes with our same tone and strength. Now, immigrants this year, have increased their number of 50%. Where do you think Italian people are going to go after this betrayal of original positions?
Your movement, or a movement like yours, would not exist and has been banned in Greece, for example, the Golden Dawn. In Germany, that would never exist. You would never be able to use the symbols and the slogans that your party uses in a country like Germany. Why is that the case?
Because Germany has got a bigger problem.
You think Germany's got the problem rather than Italy?
No, yes, because freedom is freedom.
Neither victor nor vanquished, Italy memorializes in a way others do not. The name, architecture, and gestures of the regime allowed to live on.
What do you think? We have to destroy everything. This is the cancel culture that we don't share.
The question is, does the ideology itself survive?
I would say there is a silent majority that would say yes, yes, yes on a lot of our ideas.
And is Italy, the laboratory of fascism, once again a political testing room?
What should be seen as a crime, as apology of fascism, is actually, again, downplayed as oh no, it's just nostalgic, it's a tribute.
The worry here is not that Italy's democracy per se is under threat, but that a governing party which has not severed its historical roots still winks to that support base, and that speech, notions, even policies once banished are increasingly normalized.
Cioè i fascisti si prendono una rivincita sulla storia e su quello che la storia ha scritto nel 1945, dicendo benissimo noi torniamo al governo, non siamo morti, non siamo spariti, siamo ancora qui. Il famoso filo del passato non è mai stato reciso e continua a non essere reciso.